well, it finally happened after ages of wondering, where is this little monkey? We know the whereabouts of Diddy Kong. He's alive, guys. Don't worry. Nintendo isn't removing him from the rest of the cast. He's here. But he looks a tiny bit different, and there is still a lot of curiosity around this. Because even though we got this brand new look at him, we haven't seen anything about this so far. We've seen no fanfare. We haven't seen him showcased in the new Mario Kart. We don't know if he's in the new Donkey Kong Bonanza game. We don't know what other characters are getting redesigned. There's a lot to unpack here, so let's start from the beginning. So my first introduction into seeing this image, and I think many of you did if you've seen it already, was through the Nintendo Switch news app. They did this little post talking about Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong and their adventures together. A little cute little fun post, but something was different. Donkey Kong had his brand new design, and so did Diddy Kong. Bear in mind, this image was very low res because it was just on the Switch news app. There's not much we can really decipher from this, but from the looks of it, you could see like, okay, well, there's a few subtle differences, and they're striking the exact same poses as they did with their previous renders, because in case you didn't know, this post was previously made with old renders of Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong, and like, it's so silly because the new ones are 1-to-1 in their same poses. It's just their design is different. That was only the first part, right? Now, we all thought, okay, oh, this is a little leaked image, or, you know, they probably didn't really mean to show this, or they had to show it, or something like that. There was a lot of tomfoolery and debacle going on. Maybe they wanted to hide him for like a secret character in the new Mario Kart, or a secret character in Donkey Kong Bonanza, saving him for some event. But then along comes this website, mario.nintendo.com/characters. If you go to this website now and give a little bit of a scroll, you'll notice a beautiful new render of the main cast. You see, we got Donkey Kong with his brand new little cheesy grin. Even Daisy looks a little bit different. Toad looks a little bit different. I think every character in this render is brand new. Even Mario and Luigi look a tiny bit more, I guess, gooey is the best way I can describe it. A little bit more glossy. Especially the enemies. Goomba, Paratrooper, Koopa Trooper, and Boo look phenomenal in this. But if we go to the top of the website, there's another little section where you can browse for characters. And it shows this brand new render of Mario, which looks really nice. And if you click on them, you can see a little description for each character. You can play little sounds which they make, all that fun stuff. But on this website, if you scroll all the way to the very end, there's a little character waiting for us. None other than the little Diddy Kong. And here we have a much higher quality version of that render we saw on the Nintendo Switch news app. But here's what's funny, guys. This isn't that render. This is actually a different render to the one we see on the news app. It might seem like it's just the same image flipped left and right, but it's not, because if you look at his hat, there is no indication on the website on mario.nintendo.com/characters. On here, you'll notice that his hat looks surprisingly barren, whilst in the Nintendo Switch news app, you notice he has a little emblem, a little badge on his hat. And this is where we get into the character changes, guys. So Diddy Kong at first glance might have like a very similar silhouette to his previous design, and it's far more subtle than it was from like Donkey Kong's initial like angry eyebrow design to his newer design shown in Bonanza. But it's really when you compare them side by side, does it really seem that there's some clear changes. So the immediate obvious change is that his hat doesn't have a Nintendo logo anymore. Instead, it has a little Diddy Kong badge, which I think is taken right from the Super Mario Brothers movie. I know Diddy Kong, Dixie Kong, and Chunky Kong had a little cameo in that film, and during it, Diddy Kong didn't have a Nintendo logo on his hat. Dixie Kong had this little badge which said DX on it, and I'm pretty sure Diddy Kong had one which said DD on it. So I think this is the direction they're going, where they have like these little badges, like scouts or whatever on his hat, which is that's a fun little detail. I will say, you know, having the Nintendo logo on his hat is stylish. It is pretty cool, but it definitely is like a layover from Rare's design philosophy, because even if you look at Banjo, I'm pretty sure he has like the little Rare logo on his backpack. And so in some ways, it's a little sad to see that little homage go, but at the same time, why did Diddy Kong have a Nintendo hat in the first place? It does break the law a little bit. And moving on, you can just see that the proportions of Diddy Kong in general are a little bit different. The hat's a tiny bit longer, a little bit more exaggerated. His body is a lot more softer and overall has a rounder appearance compared to his previous one, and he just comes across a little bit more friendly. But he also upped for detail a lot overall on the design, obviously, like the quality of his fur, his tank top actually having a fabric material on it, and his feet not looking like a bionicle piece. But so far, we've only really been talking about the subtle changes, because there's a few things in here which I think might be a little bit more like, ooh, take a little bit longer to get used to, frankly. First, and I think most obvious you see immediately, is his muzzle. He has teeth now, which makes sense. I think him just being a big gum person was a little bit off. So him having his cheeky little dentures showing definitely seems to give more expression available for his design. And also, I think having Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong have their teeth showing basically at all times, not really have them like disappear like they did before, where they just became all gums, also makes it so that Cranky Kong seems older, and I think it improves Cranky Kong's design. For those of you who haven't seen, Cranky Kong is in Donkey Kong Bonanza, and he looks pretty much identical to how he's always looked. He looks like an old man. He looks fine. He looks like Cranky Kong. Cranky Kong is fine. You don't have to really change his design. But obviously, him being a little old man, he doesn't have any teeth in his mouth. So I think them having this so that they're not all just teethless, all gum creatures makes it a little bit more appealing in all directions, in multiple directions. Because another thing which I think people forget is when one character's design changes, it does sort of change how those characters around them change. Because obviously, we had Donkey Kong's design change, and you think, oh, I can understand Donkey Kong getting a design change, but surely that doesn't mean Diddy Kong needs a design change, or Cranky Kong, or any of these other characters. And I think it is a case of it depends, right? It's how that character affects others. For example, as I just said, Cranky Kong didn't really need a redesign, but Diddy Kong, I guess having this new, more expressive redesigned Donkey Kong could make him stand out a little bit more compared to his little buddy, his little nephew. And so updating Diddy Kong's design alongside Donkey Kong makes a lot of sense. But enough about teeth. I went on a long tangent from teeth. He's got a little snout, a lot more clearer now. Before, his muzzle overall was just very, very round, almost like Pac-Man, really. It really does look like Pac-Man if you look at it. Like, okay, yeah, I don't like the previous one anymore, I don't think. That's what's so weird about this as well, guys. I'm just looking at them side by side, and you forget, like, how the design was just by looking at the new one. You're like, wow, this has improved so much better. Why did we stand for this before? His eyes are a lot more rounder and a lot more approachable, I would say. His ears also a lot smaller, so that his hat normally rests on his head without it being, like, sort of strange with this giant ear. And I also think his ear isn't connected to his muzzle as it was before. We're not 100% sure because this is the only angle we've seen this character at, but it's something to take into account. Another thing is we also have fingernails and toenails on him, which is sort of an interesting little design choice. But among all of this, guys, there is one strange decision made with Diddy Kong, which I think has most people upset / concerned / annoyed, whatever negative stance you want to have. This is where the controversy comes from, guys, because if you take a quick peek at his eyes, right, we notice like, oh, they are a little bit more rounder, they're less sort of like angled, but if you take a little bit closer look, they're not a uni-eye anymore. They're not like Sonic the Hedgehog. They're not just like one big uniformed eye with two pupils in it. They separated Diddy Kong's eyes. And I'm not against that at all, first off, right? I think that could be worth it for a redesign of a character. Like, look at Sonic in the Sonic movies. They removed his uni-eye because it was just a little bit off, I think, and maybe it didn't translate to 3D as well as they hoped for, like, standing around near humans. And for Diddy Kong, they've given him this skin-toned rubber band between his eyes. Like, that's really what it seems. I think this might look potentially better if it was fur. Sure, it makes sense. I think this is actually matching the anatomy of how a chimpanzee actually would have their eyes if they were drawn in a cartoonish way. But it's Super Mario. Things don't have to be that realistic. I don't know. I think it might just look a tiny bit better if it was darker. Maybe it's just that I'm not used to it, but I've seen a lot of other people complain about this. And one of my friends said that they want to like pull it out like a rubber band or like flick it off or something. I think it's just because it's so thin. I think if they either make it a tiny bit thicker to really separate the eyes or have it be darker or something, it's a little bit off-putting, slightly. It's a little bit off-putting. And maybe it would have been better to just keep it as a uni-eye or just make them separated a little bit more. I don't really know the ultimate way of doing it, but I've seen a few like mock-ups of people taking other characters, like the example I just said earlier, Sonic, and doing the same thing with adding like the color of a muzzle between their eyes with like a little thin line, and it's like, it looks so gross in some instances. Again, initially I was sort of shocked after looking at it for a while. I don't think it's that bad. I think it's like fine, I guess. I think the more I look at it, the more I think it's actually maybe it's all right. Maybe it's fine. And that's how most designs really go, right? If any of you guys maybe weren't used to the new Donkey Kong design initially, how do you feel about it now, right? It's been like a month and a bit, almost 2 months since we got that new Donkey Kong redesign shown in all its glory in the Switch 2 reveal. So I'd be curious if we have a similar thing for this, where a small, very loud minority doesn't like this, and again, including myself in this, I'm a little bit icked out by it, I will say. But as time goes on, maybe it won't be that bad. So what does this new design mean, guys? Does it mean that he's going to be in Mario Kart as a secret unlockable character? Does it mean that he's going to be in Donkey Kong Bonanza as maybe like a sidekick later on? Maybe he can jump on your back similar to the leaked character and Aardvark? And what other characters are planned to get redesigns, if any? Is Dixie Kong going to get one? Is Funky Kong? Is King K. Rool? What's going to happen? Leave a comment what you think, and be sure to stay subscribed to Mood News to be up to date, or maybe a few days out of date for all things that I find interesting. All right, take care, guys. Bye.